4 minutes past 8. The Taxpayers Union has been submitting Official Information Act requests under false names. To explain their actions is Jordan Williams, who's the director of the Taxpayers Union. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Guyon.
Why did you do this?
Yeah, well, so this was in relation to Callaghan Innovation. We've had this happen only a couple of times to us, where a government agency has really stonewalled us in some of our information requests or efforts around transparency. In this case, we actually had an insider, a staffer at Callaghan Innovation, approach us, tell us that when we were making information requests from the Taxpayers Union email accounts, they were being treated differently, and that we were being stonewalled, that the information was readily available by Callaghan, but they weren't giving it to us. So what our research team did is they set up a random number name generator at gmail.com, set up a couple of accounts, and what do you know, we got this information pretty promptly, and we make no apologies for having to go undercover, because it showed very clearly that some government agencies, and this is the exception rather than the norm, appear to be treating people differently based on who they are when requesting the same information.
In the name of transparency, you lied about who was submitting the request.
Well, this is an important right to do it. I note that the Law Commission and, in fact, the previous Ombudsman had recommended against requiring people to give their real names.
Oh, yeah, but that's very, very different. What you've done here is use false identities.
Well, we've used random name generator and created a Gmail.
That's spin, Jordan, and you know that.
I think the biggest story
it's
here...
It's a lie, isn't it? Because it's a false name.
And it is absolutely the exception, and I'm embarrassed that we have to do it, but I am not going to rule out doing it in the future, and I'm going to defend it for the very reason that going undercover in this, if that's what you want to call it, actually resulted, one, in getting the information, and it was so clearly in the public interest, because quite ironically, the very last time I was in this studio was because of the information we obtained from Callaghan Innovation that they were stonewalling us from getting.
So can you prove, you could show me the evidence that when you used another name you got the information more quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
How much more quickly?
And in fact, we had an insider, a staffer inside Callaghan Innovation, telling us that when a request comes from the Taxpayers Union, it's treated quite separately. It's really interesting looking over...
You've made that point, and I'll allow you to make other ones, but let's just address that point. Why, given you believed you had sufficient information to assess that your requests were being treated unfairly, did you not use the recourses available to you under that scenario? You could have gone to the Ombudsman to complain about that. You could have directly taken it up without compromising your source with Callaghan itself. You chose to go down a route where you appear to have abused at least the spirit of what is a freedom of information law by doing exactly the opposite.
No, I totally reject that. And in fact, it's disturbing to see overnight the number of people online saying that this is actually quite a common practice. And I see that
Can I ask you, can you address the question about why you didn't use those avenues available
because
to you?
Because we wanted the information
that
we were entitled to promptly.
It? That's what the Ombudsman's there for.
You and every one of your listeners that regularly makes information requests will know how slow that process is. Callaghan, of course, knew they had to give us eventually the information, but wanted it to slow it down as much as possible.
Can you tell me why you didn't go to the Ombudsman, Jordan?
I think it speaks... Well, we go to the Ombudsman regularly, and I'm nearly certain we have in relation to Callaghan Innovation. By doing it under another name, we got the information. And what that shows is that this particular government agency, and I hope someone calls Callaghan Innovation and they front up and explain why they were doing this, are treating people differently based on who they are and refusing or stonewalling to give some people information that the public are entitled to.
Yeah, well, here's the other point, though. You didn't proactively release this information along with the evidence and say, hey, look, this is what we've been doing and this is why we have been doing it. Did you? You got caught out. You did it in secret. And then you got caught out. Were you ever going to tell people that you'd done this?
Oh, I think there's been comments. We've made public comments before about agencies stonewalling information.
Yeah, but
requests.
I'm asking you the question. Would you have actually publicly, proactively told people that this is what you were doing?
I don't think
didn't,
so, because, as I say, we've only done this a few times.
How many times have you done it?
As far as I'm aware, and we've got there's 9 of us on staff, so I don't know, and I do a very small fraction of the information requests, but as far as I'm aware, this is the last one we've done, and this was, 6 or 8 months ago. Oh, it will be absolutely no more than half a dozen times. It's only where it's very clear we are being stonewalled because the request is from the Taxpayers Union. And I see that No Right Turn, which is hardly a left-wing blog, hardly a friend of the Taxpayers Union, quite sadly, they're saying this is quite a common practice among journalists and activists.
It looks like we stick to your one here, Joel. We're sticking to your one. According to David Fisher's reporting, it seems like there were 14 requests that were made.
Yes, as a result of the single instance, as a result of the source we had.
So how many Official Information Act requests have you made under false names?
Oh, look, I just don't know. It would be certainly less than 0.1% of the total information requests we make.
Well, roughly how many?
Well, we're pretty confident we're the largest user of the OAA in Lagoma in New Zealand. We have a research team that their job is solely to lift up the stones and look underneath as to where taxpayers' money is going. We make no apologies for instances where it's very clear that agencies are trying to hide something to have to go use an undercover method.
To hide things, roughly how many OAA requests under false names have you made?
Well, I am very confident it would be less than 40 over the 5 years the Taxpayers Union has existed, but I couldn't give you an exact figure because, frankly, no. There was one other instance that I can recall where we thought the same thing was happening.
Who else was it?
I don't remember the agency.
Really?
Well, I mean, this isn't. I know the perception is that it's David and I doing information requests all the time, and the Taxpayers Union, we've got 9 on staff, we've got a reasonable research team. I'm just not over every information request that's written. But I will defend this practice in the same way as journalists sometimes go undercover as a last resort. And I think it is such a shame we had to do it in this instance. But clearly,
and you weren't honest about it. You weren't transparent.
Well,
but you got caught out by your own admission.
Come on, Guyon. You don't reveal your sources. We know that journalists occasionally use this same practice. There's no. There's.
Well, you were the one who used the words. You used the words. You got caught out.
Well, I think the called out here is actually Callaghan Innovation, because it shows so clearly what was going on. And I'd like to hear from Callaghan Innovation what their answer is as to why, when information requests come from the Taxpayers Union, we don't get the information, or they're stonewalled. But when we create, it looks like it's Joe, member of the public, they're actually reasonably responsive, do get that information. And here, so clearly in the public interest, because in fact your program picked up the information, obviously thought it was public interest, and we held Callaghan Innovation to account for how it was wasting taxpayers' money, and that is as a taxpayer organisation.
And you'd do it again.
That is our job, absolutely.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Guyon.
Do appreciate it. That's Jordan Williams there, who's the Executive Director of the Taxpayers Union. It's 28 minutes to 9 now. Better get an update on how those markets are looking.